Good morning, folks, and welcome to another episode of Mark's Morning Business Check-In. Today is Thursday, so thanks very much for joining me. I really appreciate it. As you know, this morning it's Thursday. The weather's not bad outside, actually, a bit wet, but still, compared to the last few weeks, it's absolutely fantastic, which is absolutely brilliant. So, as we're live on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and of course TikTok, anyone joining us on TikTok, if you can hit the heart button, I'd really appreciate it. So this morning I want to talk to you about something that a lot of people ask me questions on because I'm dyslexic. Dyslexia in the workplace, and ADHD in the workplace, and autism in the workplace, and dyscalculia and dyspraxia in the workplace. And what should employers do, and how should employers help people? I'll just give you my own brief story. Is that I'm dyslexic. I wasn't diagnosed till I was about 33, 34 when I was doing my master's in Trinity College. At that stage, I just took my first exam. And if you can imagine, I was running a company turning over 40 million with 500 or 600 people in my charge. So I had all these people who reported into me, and we're turning over 40 million. And we just sold the company to Aircom, which is now Air. And I was doing my master's, and after the first exam, doing the first exam, I felt physically sick because my handwriting is terrible. My handwriting is atrocious, and my spelling isn't that great either. So now I can read very well. I've always read very well. So after the first exam, the chap in charge of the exams, in charge of the program in Trinity College, asked to see me, and I thought he was going to tell me that I had failed my first exam, which would be very embarrassing, considering that I'm running a company turning over 40 million with 300 or 400 people working with me, and we just sold to Air. So I had all these people looking at me doing my master's in Trinity College. But what he said to me was, he said, "Mark, we think you're dyslexic." Now, he said, "You're probably not sure what that is," and I wasn't sure what that was. And he said, "We'd like you to go for a little test with someone, as a psychologist within Trinity College, to see, are you dyslexic?" So I said, okay, I had nothing to lose. I went for the test, and sure enough, they said to me, "Mark, you're dyslexic." Now, what that meant to me as a whole, and going forward, I did not know. I didn't know. It wasn't a word that was used very much. And actually, if anyone did use the word, it was to say there's something wrong with you. But as the psychologist explained to me, you cannot be dyslexic unless you have a high IQ, first of all, which makes you feel much better. So all those years in school of doing so bad in exams and being told you're stupid, being told you can't do things, they were all false. And that's the first thing that I realized. All those things that were said to me were all false. Right? Because I wasn't stupid. I was actually highly intelligent, but just the way I learned is different than other people. And the one thing so having got diagnosed, how did it benefit me do my master's? Well, the first thing they said to me was, don't worry about your spelling mark. Once we understand what you're trying to say, because there's some big words when you're doing a master's in business, and theories and all that type of stuff. So trying to remember the names of those theories and trying to remember some of those strategies and strategic approaches to business can be mind-blowing. But trying to remember how to spell the words is even worse. So I didn't have to worry about that anymore. And that was fantastic. It meant now I could relax a bit, and I wasn't worried about my handwriting. Now, I couldn't use a computer because really computers were only basically used in the office then. It wasn't really a thing to bring a laptop at that time to college. It wasn't really a thing. So spelling was a big thing, grammar was a big thing, and handwriting was a big thing. So I could ignore that. And now I could learn what I had to learn, which was fantastic. So my dyslexia was not getting in the way of my learning and my education. And that's the first thing I would say to you, is that if you have someone who is dyslexic, dyspraxic, or dyscalculia, you need to make sure, as a parent, first of all, that you make sure that nothing gets in the way of their education. So you don't let dyslexia or dyspraxia or ADHD or autism get in the way of their education. You find the tools, you find the solutions that will help them learn better. And that's probably why I became an entrepreneur and started my own business in the UK when I was 22. It was a gourmet, it was a delivery service, a gourmet delivery service. So a posh delivery was posh Just Eats. That's what I was doing in the UK. And it's probably because I didn't want to see anybody see my handwriting. I was embarrassed by it. I had studied accountancy because I know figures very, very well. So figures was my strong point. So I probably went to work for myself mainly because I didn't want people to see my handwriting. I didn't want to, still had this hang up that my teachers had told me for years that I was stupid and that I couldn't learn and I couldn't understand stuff. When in actual fact, the opposite was true. And the one thing I learned, and I learned it because when we found out that our family member was dyslexic, my wife went on a mission to find a solution for him. And the solution worked so well for him that she gave up her job as financial controller to train full-time in helping people one-to-one, using that approach and using that solution. But the one thing I learned was I'm a visual thinker, and dyslexic people are visual thinkers. We don't think in words, we think in pictures. So in my head, full-time, there's a movie going on. Full-time, there's a movie going on, right? And that's just how I operate. So if I say to you, cat, if you're not dyslexic, you're going to see the word cat. If I say dog, you'll see the word dog. If I say the word house, or fire truck, or police car, you're seeing the words because you know the words. But I just see pictures. I never see words in my head. It's always pictures. And where dyslexia it trips people up, is that if you say a word to me that I have no picture for, I cannot see it, so I cannot say it. And that's one of the big challenges with people who are dyslexic. You have to teach them in the way that suits them, which is visual. So there's many people's names, especially Irish names, or people that I cannot say because I cannot see it because I have no picture for it. So if I had no picture for house and I saw the word house, it would not register with me. I wouldn't know what the word was because I have no picture for it. So the solution that Anne-Marie works on is giving people the visual tools to help them with dyslexia, dyspraxia, ADHD, and autism. So what about dyslexia in the workforce? Well, being dyslexic, I'm very much aware of what needs to be done with people in the workforce. Sorry, I'm just having a cup of my honey. Because from all the talking, I need to make sure I can keep talking. So one of the key things about dyslexia, as I said, is your visual. And that's why an awful lot of architects are dyslexic. An awful lot of painters and artists. And an awful lot of tradespeople like plumbers and carpenters are dyslexic. And the reason those types of jobs suit them is because they can see something, a problem, easier than you can. They can see it in 3D in their head. So if you have an architect and you want to build a house or a hotel or a building, you'd be sitting down in front of someone and they'd be explaining this building and how it's going to look to you before they've even started doing the drawings. That's because they see the whole building in their head before it even hits the paper. They see the rooms, they see it in 3D. And they're trying to convey to you what the building will look like and what they're going to draw as an architect. Painters are the same. That's why when we have, if there's ever challenges arise or problems arise, I can always see the solution sometimes before the problem. And one of the big challenges I have is, even in my writing, because I write books, I write children's books especially for children who are dyslexic. The Umbrella Girls. So I write this book for children. I have 3 books out, and I'm reading another 6 books. And we have about 10 books in the whole series. They're especially written for children who are dyslexic, but they're also for children who are not dyslexic. But my challenge is when I'm writing my books is that I know how it's going to end. So I have to slow myself down to bring you to the end and tell you the story. People who are dyslexic want to get to the end very quickly because they see what the end result is. So in the workplace, you have to help them break down the project or the work they're doing into bits and let them know that all the different bits that has to be done before the project is finished. Because when you're dyslexic, you get very frustrated that you're not at the end yet, that you're only at the beginning or the middle or whatever. You want to be at the end. And because you want to be at the end, you can lose focus very quickly. You can lose focus being dyslexic in the work that you're doing because you know what the end result is and you just want to get there very quickly. It's like the bullet train in Japan. You want to move at that speed to the end of your project. However, you can only move at the pace that your other team members are working at. So that's why dyslexic people, you have to break the project down into bits because they get frustrated and they lose focus and they lose interest. The other thing about dyslexic people is they can get very tired by Thursday or Friday. And you probably see this in children, that they get pains in their stomach, they get pains in the head. Usually on a Thursday, Friday, they don't want to go to school. They say they feel unwell. And one of the key reasons for that is the dyslexic people use up so much energy trying, in their mind, keep up with other people. They're using so much energy up to read stuff, to take stuff in, that it gives them headaches and it wears their body out and their mind out quicker than anybody else during a working week. And that's why if you have somebody in the workforce who you know is dyslexic or you believe maybe dyslexic, then they will take a bit longer to read the information you're going to give them. Maybe they might take a bit longer to read the project plan. Maybe it might take a bit longer to read that contract. But once they've read it, they will nearly know it word for word, off by heart. I can still remember legal agreements that I could read back in 1995, 96, 97, 98. I can still see all the work I've done. All that stuff is still up here and I can recall it anytime I want. I can still see that. And that's why children in school and adults in the workplace, if they haven't told you they're dyslexic and they haven't made it known, their head is working so hard because they believe they should read the documents at the same pace that you read it. They believe they should do their work just as fast as you do it. But the reality is, when you're dyslexic, that does not happen. So if you're dyslexic or dyspraxic or ADHD, you will do it on autistic at a slower rate, but the work quality will be still as good, if not better, than anyone else who is neurotypical. So in the workplace, if you know someone is dyslexic, number one, you have to give them the extra time to understand what the project is. You may have to break it down into segments of the different steps that you want taken to get the project done, so you don't overwhelm them. So they don't come along and say, oh, I have all this stuff to do. Oh my God, where do I start? Where do I finish? I know what the end looks like. What am I going to do? You have to talk with them and talk it through with them. And you have to make sure that when they leave your office, if you give them a task to do, that they understand what the task is. Because one of the other things is, when you have someone sitting in front of you who is dyslexic and you tell them about the task, they may completely zone out. They may be looking at you, but they're not hearing you because they're panicking inside of all the things they have to do that they might think they might find as a challenge. So if you said to someone, I need you to paint all this room red, already they may be panicking and zoning out. How will I get the paint? How am I going to do it? Who's going to help me? What am I going to do? And they're not listening to the rest of your instructions because they have zoned out. So it's important that you keep looking at the person and keep an eye on their eye movement and have they glassed over and have they zoned out. And I said the next thing is you need to break the project down. So if you're painting the room, you need to explain to them, right, number one, we need to get all the chairs out. We need to put them into X place. We need to move all the tables out. We need to take all the pictures off the walls. We need to cover all the floor with plastic. So you tell them or you have it written down what the tasks is that they have to do. Now, once it's done, any problems that they come across in the middle of that task, they will solve it. Without problem, they will solve it. The other thing that with people who are dyslexic is more than likely every 45 minutes, you need to allow them to take a breather for 5 or 10 minutes. Because if they're getting overwhelmed, taking a step back or going out for a bit of fresh air for 5 to 10 minutes helps clear the head and helps them reset themselves, which is very important. Same with autistic people, same with ADHD people. It allows them just to recalibrate their head over 5 or 10 minutes out in the fresh air or walking around the building. Also, where you sit them is important because you don't want to sit them in a busy corridor or a busy area because if too many people are coming up asking them questions all the time, they won't be able to focus if they're dyslexic or ADHD. And because they don't like upsetting people and they don't like saying no, a lot of dyslexic people like to help people, they get attached to people, and they always want to help. So they won't say no. But the problem is then their work is suffering because they don't know when to say no and prioritize their own work. And they would welcome the opportunity for you to come over and have a problem and for them to have to go and show you how to sort that problem out because it gives them an excuse not to do their work or to delay it. So that's why if you have someone in the workforce who's dyslexic, dyspraxic, or ADHD or autistic, you have to give them the space. You have to make sure that they have the time to get up and walk around maybe every 45 minutes, go for a cup of tea in the canteen or go out in fresh air just to recalibrate their head. Make sure that people maybe have a code system. Maybe they put a yellow sticker on the desk to let people know, yeah, you can talk to me now, I'm free. Or a red sticker, no, this is not the best time to talk to me. So people know that this person is busy and they're very focused on what they're doing. So, and also when you're giving them tasks, that you break it down and you keep checking in with them every so often. Are they okay with the task they're doing? Do they have the resources they need? Do they need any help? And that's important. And that's why knowing you're dyslexic is fantastic, but you have to make a decision in the workplace whether you tell your employer or your colleagues whether you are dyslexic. I tell people now. For a long time I didn't, but because neurodiversity is more out there now and more people are talking about it, it's more acceptable because you do have a gift, but it's how you use that gift and how people see it. Some people still see it as a disadvantage. Some people would rather learn like everybody else, but we don't learn like everybody else. Same way we don't dress like everybody else. Everyone dresses differently. Everyone reads differently. Everyone makes their coffee differently. Everyone eats their cornflakes differently. Everyone has different things for breakfast. Everyone does things different. And just because you do things different doesn't mean that you should be disadvantaged. It means that people should be aware of who you are and your strengths. One of my strengths is that when I told you when it comes to numbers, that if someone gives me the key figures from a P&L account, profit and loss account, I can do a full P&L in my head and I'm usually 99% right what the net loss and net profit is. I can see accounts in my head, I can see numbers, I can see how if you lose a customer now, and you lost 20 grand's worth of sales or 50 grand's worth of sales, I can see exactly how that's going to affect the cash flow and the profit and loss account in my head before you even touch a computer to work out what has to be done. I can also see what cuts needs to be made and what savings needs to be made in my head within minutes. And that's a gift that I have. And I've used it when I've started my own businesses. I've used it when I've raised finance, the £5 million on other monies and £20 million on other stages. When I've used it to raise money, and I've used it to help people solve problems and come up with solutions to make people's businesses more efficient, to make them more efficient, and to help myself be more constructive. So it is a gift, but it's knowing what the gift is and knowing how to use it. So I hope that gives you an insight this morning on helping someone in your organization who's dyslexic, dyspraxic, ADHD, or autistic. But if you do have any more questions around that, don't be shy. Reach out to us. The email address is on the screen. For anybody else listening, it's markbeggs@gmail.com. markbeggs@gmail.com. Or you can go onto our website, mindseyeeducation.com. And we have tools there and we have solutions there to help you if you're dyslexic. Whether, like Anne-Marie's youngest client has been 4 years old, her oldest client has been 84. So we do have a solution and solutions to help you. If you need us to come into your office or into your workspace to help people be more neurodiverse aware, or you're unsure how to help people in your organization do better and to thrive, then reach out to us and we will have a talk with you, no problem whatsoever. And again, once again, the email address is markbeggs@gmail.com. There's a lot of free stuff, a lot of free interviews on dyslexia, on dyspraxia, and with other entrepreneurs, all on our YouTube channel, Mind's Eye Education. Just go on there and you see it. So I'm going to say good morning to everybody on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. And don't forget, we're here every weekday morning from 7:30 a.m. for about 20 minutes. We're at 22 minutes now. I'll keep a timer there because I know you're all very busy and you have to get on with your day. But do reach out. It's never a problem. If you want to talk to me, all you have to do, you can email me, or if you want to buy me a coffee, it'll cost you €4 to buy me a coffee and have a chat to see how I can help you, or Anne-Marie can help you. Whether you have a child, an adult, someone within the workforce who's dyslexic, dyspraxic, autistic, ADHD, and you're looking for a solution, you're looking to help them maybe come up to exam time, maybe you're going back to college, and maybe you want them to do better in the workforce, maybe you're struggling yourself in the workforce and you need help, reach out to us and we'll see what we can do to help you the best we can. Thanks for joining me this morning. We really appreciate it.